Two frontier models can both write code, both reason across long context, both run tools on your behalf. But when the task gets messy, the difference gets a lot more interesting. A developer hands the same brief to two assistants. Refactor a legacy service. Don't break the tests. One returns in 90 seconds with a clean diff. The other thinks longer and rewrites the part the first one missed. Same prompt, same repo, two very different machines. This is Claude Opus 4.7 against GPT 5.5. Not on a benchmark, in the real world.
Anthropic and OpenAI have spent the last year pulling in slightly different directions. Claude Opus 4.7 is the current Anthropic flagship. It leans into long-running work, agents that hold a plan in their head for hours, not minutes, coding, tool use, careful reasoning under uncertainty. GPT 5.5 is OpenAI's frontier model. It's tuned for breadth, faster turnaround on shorter prompts, stronger multimodal range, a model designed to feel instant across the widest possible surface, from chat to voice to image to code. That's the pitch. Marketing pages always sound clean. The interesting question is what happens when you actually use them.
Every model launch comes with a benchmark chart. A bar a few % taller than the last bar. A new state-of-the-art on a test most users have never heard of. The problem is, benchmarks are clean. Real work is not. A benchmark hands the model a self-contained problem. A real user hands it a half-broken repo, 3 Slack threads of context, a vague deadline, and an unclear definition of done. The model that scores higher on a leaderboard isn't always the one that survives hour 3 of a debugging session. That's the gap this video is about. Not which model wins on paper. Which one wins on a Tuesday afternoon when the build is red and the spec keeps changing. Start with the obvious one, code. Both models can write a function. That stopped being interesting years ago. The real question is, can they fix something they didn't write? Hand them a legacy TypeScript service, a failing test, no docstring, the kind of bug where the stack trace lies. In broad practitioner reports through early 2026, Claude Opus 4.7 tends to slow down here. It reads more files before it edits. It often catches a second bug the user didn't ask about. GPT 5.5 tends to move faster, proposing a fix in fewer steps, sometimes guessing at intent and getting it right, sometimes guessing wrong. Neither approach is universally better. If you want speed, GPT often gets you to a draft sooner. If you want a fix that survives code review, Opus tends to come back with fewer regressions. The honest read? Different debugging temperaments, one eager, one cautious.
Now stretch the context. Both models advertise huge windows. The marketing number isn't the story. The story is, how much of that window can they actually use? Drop a 200-page contract into the prompt. Ask a question that depends on a clause buried 2/3 of the way in. Then ask a follow-up that requires connecting that clause to a footnote on page 11. This is where Opus tends to shine. The model holds threads of reasoning across a long document with noticeably fewer dropped details. GPT 5.5 answers fast and confidently, but in messy real-world documents, it's more likely to confidently miss a constraint that lived in the middle of the file. Again, not a benchmark claim, a pattern users keep reporting. If your work is research, contracts, long code bases, dense PDFs, the difference compounds.
This is where frontier models stop feeling like chatbots. Give the model a goal, not a prompt. Find the slowest endpoint in this API. Profile it. Propose a fix. Open a pull request. Now the model has to plan. Call tools. Read output. Decide what to do next. Recover when something fails. Anthropic has spent the last 18 months optimizing Claude for exactly this loop. Opus 4.7 is, by design, an agentic model. It tends to make fewer wasted tool calls, recover more gracefully from a failed step, and hold the plan together across long sessions. GPT 5.5 is no slouch here. Its tool calling is fast and broad, with strong multimodal action support. But in long, multi-stage runs, users more often report that it loses the thread. Repeats a step. Forgets a constraint from earlier. If your workflow is one prompt, one answer, this difference doesn't matter. If your workflow is a 20-step agent running for an hour, it's the whole game. Here's the unfair trade-off nobody likes to talk about. Depth costs time. Speed costs nuance. Every frontier lab is trying to hide this curve, and none of them have flattened it. GPT 5.5 is, on average, snappier. Lower latency on short turns. Better suited to chat-style interaction where every second of waiting feels like friction. Opus 4.7, especially in extended thinking mode, will often pause longer before answering, and return something more considered. On a customer support widget, that's a problem. On a planning task that's about to spawn 3 hours of automated work, that pause is cheap insurance. Pick the model that matches your latency budget, not your ego. The most underrated metric in AI right now isn't intelligence. It's stamina. Can the model still be useful at minute 90 of a session? After a dozen tool calls, 3 corrections, 2 context shifts, and a user who keeps changing their mind. This is where the gap shows up most clearly. Opus 4.7 is engineered to hold up under that load. It's the model people leave running. GPT 5.5 is, anecdotally, more likely to drift in those long sessions, re-asking questions it already answered, or quietly losing earlier instructions. Not always. Not catastrophically. But often enough that serious agent builders notice. If your product runs the model for 60 seconds, you'll never see this. If your product runs it for 60 minutes, you'll see nothing else. Pull this back to something more human. A creator opens their laptop on a Sunday night. They want a 15-minute documentary by Friday. GPT 5.5 is fantastic for the first draft. Fast brainstorms. Quick title variations. Snappy hooks. Image generation in the same conversation. Opus 4.7 is where the script actually gets finished. Long, structured outputs that hold tone across 2,000 words. Edit plans that don't contradict themselves at minute 11. Voice-over scripts that respect pacing markers across 20 paragraphs. This very video, outline, script, edit plan, motion graphics list, was produced as a single coordinated job by a frontier model. You're listening to the result. So, which one wins? Wrong question. Pick by use case. For long-running coding agents, complex refactors, deep research over big documents, multi-step tool use, and reliability across hour-long sessions, Claude Opus 4.7 is, today, the more dependable choice. For fast multimodal chat, broad creative ideation, low-latency consumer experiences, and anything where a quick confident answer beats a slow careful one, GPT 5.5 is hard to beat. The frontier isn't a single ladder anymore. It's a shape. And the smartest builders in 2026 aren't picking a side. They're rooting. Right model, right job, right moment. The race isn't who's smarter. It's who fits your workflow. and on that question, only you have the data. If this was useful, subscribe. We do one of these every 2 weeks.